busted.
Hello everyone, I'm back. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm David Estes, the author of The Dwellers and the Country Sagas. And I did a reading earlier on Jenny's awesome blog, which was an excerpt from the beginning of The Moon Dwellers. Now, she's very kindly is having me back to do a reading from the beginning of the sister series, which the first book is called Fire Country. Which has received quite a bit of attention because it's quite unique and probably shows my true strange personality a bit more than any of my other books. But first, I want to try and keep these interesting and give you some tidbits about me with each one. So in this one, I want to talk about my hat. I know, strange topic, but this is a new hat. And the reason this is a new hat is because my old hat, which generally appeared in most of the photos that I posted on Facebook, on my fan group, on Twitter, etc., was a different hat, a gray hat, and people came to expect to see me in that gray hat, which I bought in Sydney, Australia, maybe 3 years ago. It was my go-to. Anytime I left the house, I would wear that hat. It's very sunny generally wherever we are. And so I needed that hat so I wouldn't get sunburned, and because I was trying to make somewhat of a fashion statement. People seem to like that hat. Anyway, long story short, I'm mourning that hat because my wife and I rode a bus in Italy, and I left that hat on the bus, and it's gone. It's dead forever. R.I.P. gray hat. So we've recently flown to Greece, which is the next stop on a 2-year trip around the world that we're in the middle of. And it's 33 degrees Celsius here. That's like 90 plus degrees. No, not a cloud in the sky. It's sunny. And so the first thing I had to do was buy a new hat. So this is the new hat. I hope that you like it. It'll be the one that will be appearing in photos for the next probably couple of years, unless I do something stupid like leave it on another bus. So anyway, we're 2 minutes into this video already. Hope I'm not boring you. I want to do the reading of Fire Country. For those of you who haven't read it, it's the first book in the Country Saga, which is a sister series to the Dweller Saga. And it has 3 books in this particular series. Fire Country is the first one, then Ice Country, then Water and Storm Country. And I'm going to do a reading now. I hope you enjoy it. So it starts with a brief blurb called The Law. In its original form, as approved by the Grey Note Council, Article 56, a bearer shall, upon reaching the appropriate age of 16 years old, be called to a man no younger than 18 years old to bear children immediately and every 3 years thereafter. This is the law. Chapter 1. When I'm 16 and reach the midpoint of my life, I'll have my first child. Not because I want to, or because I made a silly decision with a strapping young boy after sneaking a few sips of my father's fire juice, but because I must. It's the law of my people, the Heaters, a law that's kept us alive and thriving for many years, a law I fear. I learned all about the ways of the world when I turned 7, the bleeding time, what I would have to do with a man when I turned 16, and how the baby, my baby, would grow inside me for 9 full moons. Even though it all seemed like 100 years distant at the time, I cried for 2 days. Now that it's less than a year away, I'm too scared to cry. Viva told me all about the pain. She's 17 and her baby's 5 full moons old and uglier than one of the hairy old warts on the medicine man's feet. Or at least that's how she describes Polk. Me, I think he's sort of cute, in a scrunched up, fat-cheeked kind of way. Well, anyway, she said to me, Sienna, you never felt pain so burning fierce. I screamed and screamed and then screamed some more. And then this ugly tug of a baby comes out, all red-faced and oozy, and now I'm stuck with it. I didn't remind her Polk's a him, not an it. I already knew about her screaming. Everyone in the village knew about Viva's screaming. She sounded like a 3-ton tug stuck in a bog hole. Viva's always cursing, too, throwing around words like burning and searing and blaze, words that'd draw my father's hand across my face like lightning if I ever let them slip out of my mouth, like they're nothing more in common language. In any case, everything she tells me about turning 16 just makes me wish I didn't have to get older, could stay 15 for the next 17 or so years until the fire takes me. It's not fair, really, that boys get to wait until they're 18 before their names get put in the call. I'd kill for an extra years or 2 years of no baby. Viva told me something else, too. Something they didn't teach us when I was 7. She told me the only good part of it all was when she got to lie with her call, a guy named Grunt, who everyone thinks is a bit of a shanker. I've personally never seen him do a lick of work, and he's always coming up with some excuse or another to avoid the tug hunts. Well, Viva told me that he makes up for all of it, and all of that in the tent. Most of what she told me made my stomach curl, but she swore on the sun goddess that it was the best day of her life. To her, shanky old Grunt is a real stallion. But even if there was something good about turning 16, there's still no guy in the village that I'd want to be my call. I mean, most of them are so old and crusty, well on their ways to 30, and even the youngest eligible men, the 18-year-olds, include guys like Grunt, who will also be eligible for my call, because Viva has to wait another 2 years before she can get child big again. No matter how much of a stallion Viva claims Grunt is, I don't want to get close enough to him to even smell his fire juice reeking breath, much less lie with him in a tent. "Sienna," a voice whispers in my ear. I flinch, startled to hear my name, snapping away from my thoughts like a dung beetle scurrying from a scorpion. Laughter crowds around me and I cringe. Not again. My daydreaming's likely to cause me another day on shovel duty, which we like to call blaze craze when our parents ain't listening. "Youngling Sienna," Teacher Ma says, "I asked you a question. Will you please grace us with an answer? One of the only good things about turning 16 will be not getting called youngling anymore." I feel 20 sets of eyes on me, and suddenly a speck of dirt on my tugskin moccasins catches my attention. "Can you please repeat the question, teacher?" I mumble to my feet, trying to sound as respectful as possible. "Repeating the question will result in shovel duty, Sienna, which will bring your total to 4 days, I believe." I stare at my feet, lips closed. I wonder if teacher not repeating the question is an option, but I'm smart enough not to ask. "The question I asked you was, what is the average life expectancy for a male in fire country?" Stupid, stupid, stupid. It's a question that any 4-year-old toddler with half a brain could answer. It's a blaze that's been shoveled into all our heads for the last 11 years. 30 years old, I say, finally looking up. I keep my eyes trained forward on Teacher Ma's, ignoring the stares and the whispers from the other younglings. Teacher's black hair is twisted into 2 braids, one on either side, hanging in front of his ears. His eyes are dark and slitted, and although I can't tell whether he's looking at me, I know he is. "And females?" he asks. 32, I answer without hesitation. I take a deep breath and hold it, still feeling the stares and smirks on me, hoping teacher will move on to someone else. The fierceness of the fiery noonday sun presses down on my forehead so hard it squeezes sweat out of my pores and into my eyes. It's days like this I wish the learning house had a roof, and not just 3 wobbly walls made from the logs of some tree the greynotes, who are the elders of our village, bartered from the icers, who are our closest neighbors. I blink rapidly, flinching when the perspiration burns my eyes like acid. Someone laughs, but I don't know who. Teacher speaks. "I ask you this not to test your knowledge, for clearly every youngling in fire country knows this, but to ensure your understanding as to our ways, our traditions, our laws." Thankfully, the head's turned back to teacher, and I can let out the breath I've been holding. "Nice one, C," Sir kisses from behind me. I glance toward him, eyes narrowed. "You could have helped me out," I whisper back. His deeply tanned face, darker and dark brown eyes, and bronzed lips are full of amusement. I hear what the other younglings say about him. He's the smokiest guy in the whole village. I tried to, dreamer. It took me 4 tries to get your attention. Teacher Maz drones on. "Living in a world where each breath we take slowly kills us, where the glass people kill us with their chariots of fire, where the killers crave our blood, our flesh, where our neighbors, the people of Ice Country, are bound tenuously by a flimsy trade agreement, requires discipline, order, commitment. Each of you took a pledge when you turned 12 to uphold this order, to obey the laws of our people, the laws of Fire Country." Ugh, I've heard this all before, so many times that if I hear one more mention of the laws of Fire Country, I think I might scream. Nothing against them or anything, considering they were created to help us all survive, but between my father and the teachers, I've had enough of it. Watching teacher, I risk another whisper to Cirque. "You could have told me what question he asked." Teacher would have heard, and then we'd both be on blaze craze. He's right, not that I'll admit it. Teacher doesn't miss much, at least not with me. In the last full moon alone, I've been caught daydreaming 4 times. Wait till my father finds out. The wild ones steal more and more of our precious daughters with each new season. Teacher's words catch my attention. The wild ones. I've never heard teacher talk about them before. In fact, I've never heard anyone talk about them. Except for us younglings, with our rumors and gossip, not openly anyway. My head spins as I grapple with his words and my thoughts. The wild ones, my sisters. The wild ones. Sky. Wild. Sis. It is obvious I've captured the attention of many of you younglings, teacher continues. It's good to know I can still do that after all these years. He laughed softly to himself. Surely you have all heard of the wild ones, descending on our village during the call, snatching our new bearers from our huts, our tents, and our campfires. He pauses, looks around, his eyes lingering on mine. Well, I'm here today to confirm that some of the rumors are true. I knew it, I think. My sister didn't run away like everyone said. She was taken, against her will, to join the group of feral women who are wreaking havoc across Fire Country. The wild ones do exist. We have to do something, I accidentally say out loud, my thoughts spilling from my lips like intestines from a gutted tug's stomach. Once more, the room turns toward me, and I find myself investigating an odd-shaped rock on the dusty ground. Hawk, a thick-headed guy with more muscles and brains, says, "What are you going to do, scrawny? You can't even carry a full wash bucket." My cheeks burn as I continue to study the rock, which sort of looks like a fist. In my peripheral vision, I see Cirque give him a death stare. "Watch it, Hawk," the teacher says, "or you'll earn your own shovel. In fact, Sienna's right." I'm so shocked by his words that I forget about the rock and Hawk and look up. "I am," I say, sinking further into the pit of stupidity I've been digging all morning. "Don't sound so surprised, Sienna. We all have a part to play in turning this around. We must be vigilant, must not allow ourselves even a speck of doubt that maintaining the traditions of our fathers is not the best thing for us." "I think the wilds sound pretty smoky," Hawk says from the back. There are a few giggles from some of the more shilty girls, and two of Hawk's mates slap him on the back like he's just made the joke of the year. "What do we do, teacher?" Farla, a soft-spoken girl, asks earnestly. Teacher nods. "Now you're asking the right questions. 2 things. First, if you heard anything at all about the wild ones, tell your fathers. And second—" "What about our mothers?" someone asks, interrupting. "Excuse me," Teacher Moss says, peering over the tops of the cross-legged younglings to find the asker of the question. "The mothers. You said to tell our fathers if we hear anything about the wilds. Shouldn't we tell our mothers, too?" I look around to find who spoke. Lara. I should have known. She's always stirring the kettle, both during learning and social time, with her radical ideas. She's always saying crazy things about what girls should be allowed to do, like hunt and play feetball. My father's always said she's one to watch, whatever that means. I, for one, kind of like her. At least she's never made fun of me, like most of the others. Her black hair is short, like a boy's, buzzed almost to the scalp. It's appalling. How she obtained her father's permission for such a haircut is beyond me. But at least she's not a shilt, like so many of the other girls who sneak behind the border tents and swap spit with whichever youngling they think is the smokiest. Although at least they're not following the law blindly either. I've always admired Lara's blaze on me and I'll blaze on you attitude, although I'd never admit it for my fear of my father finding out. He'd break out his favorite leather snapper for sure, the one that left the scars on my back when I was 13 and thought skipping learning to watch the hunters sounded like a good idea. "Tell your fathers first, then you can tell your mothers," the teacher says quickly. Where was I? Oh yes, the second thing you can do. If the wild ones, approach you, try to convince you to leave, whisper their lies in your ear, resist them. Close your ears to them and run away, screaming your head off. That's the best thing you can do. Pondering teacher's words, I look up at the sky, so big and red and monster-like, full of yellow-gray clouds as its claws, creeping down the horizon in streaks, practically scraping against the desert floor, and a single eye, blazing with fire, the eye of the sun goddess. It's no wonder they call this place Fire Country. It's Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Cirque agrees to meet me later on, when it's time to take my punishment for daydreaming in class. But first I want to let my frustrations out to Viva, who will understand them better than most. I cringe when I hear an eardrum-shattering scream from inside her tent. Her baby's got a set of lungs on him, all right. When I pushed through the tent flap, Viva's all in a tizzy, muttering under her breath, rushing about, her hair a mess of curls around her face. She looks like she's about to scream, too. All I know is if she does, I'm making a run for it. She shoots me a look when I enter, but doesn't stop her frantic rushing. Searing Polk's been burning, tossing his nuggets all day. He'll eat everything I got. As if to illustrate, she stops, shaking her ample breast wildly. And more, but then he chucks it all back up no more than 5 minutes later. Oh, you're in for a real treat, see. Just wait till it's your turn. We can laugh all the way to the Wooloo hut together. Before I can respond, Polk lets out another shriek that has shattered the glass windows in my family's hut. Shut that vomit hole of yours, Polk, Viva shouts, which only serves to enhance the volume of the squirming baby's cry. Let me take him, I say, dodging puddles of barf to grab Polk, who's rolling around on a tugskin blanket. You clean up the mess. Viva's shoulders drop, and she gives me a grateful half-smile. You're one of the good ones, see, she says, tucking a blanket between Polk's mouth and me, a precaution against the barfing. Maybe I shouldn't have been so quick to scoop the little bugger up. Viv goes about mopping up the floor, talking a mile a minute. You know, kid, she says, even though she's only a year and a half older than me. Besides getting to lie every night with my man, she pauses, looks up at me, licking her lips. Ew, gross, V, I exclaim. Polk's surprisingly quiet, staring at me with big eyes that would be almost cute if he weren't such a little vomit sprayer. What? I ain't gonna lie. Grunt may not look it, but he gets a scorch of a lot smokier when the sun goddess goes to sleep. I shake my head as a mental image of Grunt's fat belly bounces across my mind. Ah, too much information, V. V laughs, goes back to her cleaning. Well, it's true. Anyway, besides the fun parts, this whole baby-making business ain't as much fun as it sounds. I'm not sure when it ever sounded fun, but I ignore her and let her continue. Getting waked up in the middle of the burning night, having to change his bundle, having to feed him, having to figure out what the scorch he wants when nothing seems to work. Ugh, even with what Viva calls the fun parts, the whole thing sounds like a whole lot of work. I still got a half a year, I remind myself, trying not to think about how things will change when I'm a bearer. Break in the chapter, new scene. Why would the Wilds whisper lies in my ear if they're going to kidnap me anyway? I ask Cirque the first chance I get after leaving Viv's tent. My voice sounds funny because I've pinched my nose shut with my finger and thumb. Cirque laughs at my voice and then says, They're not going to kidnap you, see? I snort because his voice sounds even funnier with his nostrils clamped tight. My fingers come off my nose for a second and I get a whiff of the blaze pit that sits a stone's throw to the side. Screwing up my face, I pinch harder until it hurts. A little pain is better than the smell. Excuse me for 1 second. Just gonna get a drink. This is real time. This is real time action reading, and this is Greece. I don't know if you can see that. It's pretty bright outside. We're in Santorini, Greece at the moment, and it is very hot. I'm just going to grab some water real quick. And after these readings, I'm going to take a bit of a break, and Adele and I are going to go enjoy the beach here. 1 second. I don't mean me. I mean, hypothetically speaking, if the Wilds were trying to kidnap me, I look at Cirque, trying not to laugh at the sight of his squashed nose, or any other youngling girl. Why wouldn't they just grab her from behind, put a hand over her mouth, and carry her away in a tugskin sack? Maybe they're all out of tugskin, Cirque says, cracking up and losing the grip on his nose. He sticks out his tongue as the foul odor sneaks up his nostrils. The tips of his moccasin-covered feet are touching mine as we sit cross-legged across from each other. We've sat this way since we were toddlers. Come on, I say, clutching my stomach. I'm being serious. The only problem, it's hard to be serious when I can't stop laughing. I don't know, see, maybe it's easier if they can convince you to come with them, rather than having to haul your tiny butt away with you kicking and screaming. It's a good point, but still. Something just doesn't smell right, I say, and we both crack up, but then just as quickly fall over gagging from the thick, putrid latrine air. Let's get this over with, then we can talk, Cirque says, covering his mouth and nose with a hand. I smile behind my own hand. Thanks for helping me with blaze craze, I say. Just promise me you'll stop daydreaming in class. I don't ever want to have to do this again. He plucks his moccasins off with his spare hand, one at a time, and then pulls his thin white shirt over his head. I've seen him shirtless 1,000 times, from toddler to midder to youngling, but this time I forced myself to look closer, because of what all t'other youngling girls are saying about him. Cirque is so smoky. What I wouldn't give for 5 seconds with Cirque behind the border tents. You're close with Cirque, aren't you, Sienna? Could you give him a message for me? Of course I say I will, but I never do. If they don't have the guts to say whatever they want to right to his face, then they're not good enough for him. Plus, the thought of Cirque behind the border tents with some shilty youngling makes me a bit queasy. Anyway, I try to see Cirque from their perspective just this once. To call his skin sun-kissed would be the understatement of the year, like calling a tug sorta big or a killer kinda dangerous. It's like the sun is infused in the very pigment of his skin, leaving him golden brown and radiant. He's strong too, almost as strong as iron, his stomach flat and hard, his chest and arms cut like stone, but he's always been this way, hasn't he? Still, staring at his torso, present-day Cirque fades from my vision and is replaced with images of him growing up. Cirque is a toddler, 5 years old, small and a bit pudgy in his stomach, arms and face. Cirque turning 8 and becoming a midder, less chubby but still awkward looking, way too long arms and legs. Cirque at 12, a full-fledged youngling, much taller and skinnier than a tent pole, not a bulge of muscle anywhere on him. The images fade and Cirque stares at me. What? He says. Nothing, I say, shaking my head and wondering when Cirque became so smoky. It's weird how when you're around somebody so much you don't seem to notice the changes in them. It's like with every passing year he's becoming more and more capable, while I stay just as useless as ever. He's good at everything, from hunting to feetball to learning, and all I'm good at is daydreaming and getting in trouble. He's smoky, and as my nickname suggests, I'm scrawny. You were daydreaming again, weren't you? His words are accusing, but his tone and expression are as light as the brambleweeds that tumble and bounce across the desert. You caught me, I mumble through my hand. I see his grin creep around the edges of his fingers. He stands up and offers a hand. Care to shovel some blaze with me, my lady? Despite my self-pitying thoughts, he manages to cheer me up, and I take his hand, laughing. He pulls me up, hands me a shovel. While I carry my shovel, Cirque wheels a push barrel, and we follow our noses toward the stench, which becomes more and more unbearable with each step. You've done this before, I remind myself. You just have to get used to the smell again. If the smell is bad, the heat is unbearable. Although the heart of the summer is full 4 moons distance. You couldn't tell it by the weather. The air is as thick as Zard's soup, full of so much moisture that your skin bleeds sweat the moment you step from the shade, as if you've just taken a dip in the watering hole. All around us is flat, sandy desert, which radiates the heat like the embers of a dying cook fire. With summer nipping at our heels and winter approaching, almost everything is dead, and the long strands of desert wildgrass having been burned away many full moons earlier. A few lonely pricklers continue to thwart death. The unusually green spiky plants turn brown by the sun, but rising stalwart from the desert. We call them the plants of the gods for a reason, bearing milk even in the harshest conditions. Without them, my people might not survive the winter. We reach the edge of the blaze pit and look down. It's a real mess, as if no one's been here to shovel it for many quarter full moons. Maybe even a few full moons. It's going to be a long afternoon. Maybe we can just cover it with dirt, I say hopefully. Cirque gives me a look. Don't be such a shanker. You know it's not full yet. I'm not a shanker, I protest. Well, you sure sound like one, Cirque says, grinning. Now I know he's trying to get me all riled up. Determined to prove him wrong, I roll up my dress and tie it off at the side, and then clamber down the side of the pit, feeling the blaze squish under the tread of my bare feet. Gross. Some even slips between my toes. Cockroaches scuttle out of my path. The smell is all around me now, a brownish haze rising up as the collective crap of our entire village cooks under the watchful eye of the hot afternoon sun. Not a pleasant sight. Gritting my teeth, I start shoveling. The goal is to even it out, move the blaze that's around the edges to the center. You see, people come and dump their family's blaze into this pit, but they're sure as scorch not going to wade down into the muck and unload it in a good spot. No, they're going to just run up to the pit as fast as they can, dump their dung around the edges, and then take off lickety-split. That causes a problem. The blaze keeps on piling up around the edge, usually the edge of the pit closest to the border tents, until the pit is overflowing despite not being even close to full. Then a lucky shanker like me, not that I'm the least bit shanky, gets punished and has to use a shovel and old-fashioned sweat and grit to move the blaze around. Or if the pit is full, you get to cover it up with dirt so people can start using the next one. That's what I was hoping for earlier. Anyway, I get right into it, heaping the scoop of my shovel full of stinking muck and tossing it as far toward the center as I can get it. Some of it splatters my clothes, but that's inevitable, so I don't give it another thought. Clothes can be clean, but the job's not going to get done without us doing it. A moment later, Cirque's beside me, and within 2 scoops his bare chest is glistening with a thin sheen of sweat that reflects the light into my eyes like thousands of sparkling diamonds. Every once in a while, one of us gags, our throats instinctively closing up to prevent any more of the blaze haze from penetrating our lungs. Can a person die of excessive blaze fume inhalation? With 3 more shovel duty afternoons to come, I'm certainly going to put that question to the test. Scoop, shovel, gag, repeat. It goes on like that for a while, neither of us talking, not because we don't want to, because we can't without choking. At some point I become immune to the smell, but I know it's still there like an invisible force lying in wait for its next victim. My supposedly non-existent muscles are all twisted up, as if a hand is inside my skin, grabbing and squeezing and pounding away. Each shovelful gets smaller and smaller until there's almost no point in scooping, so I stop. Try to jab the shovel in the blaze so it stands upright, but I don't do it hard enough and it just falls over. Cirque stops too and looks at me, a smile playing on his lips. "You look like Blaze," he says, full on laughing now. I feel like Blaze too, but I won't say that. Instead, I get ready to tell him the same thing, but then I notice, although his legs are spattered and dotted with brown gunk, from the knees up he's spotless. He's dripping beads of sweat like the spring rains have come early, but he doesn't look tired. His tanned arms and chest are machine-like in their perfection. He doesn't look like Blaze at all, so I can't say it, not without lying, and I won't lie to Cirque. "Sorry, I didn't mean... I was just joking around," Cirque says. My eyes flick to his. How does he know what I'm feeling? Does he know what I see as I look at him? That I see him as perfect? I realize I'm frowning. "No biggie," I say, my lips fighting their way against gravity and exhaustion into a pathetic smile. I was joking too. Cirque studies my face for a moment, as if not convinced, but I look away, scan the pit, try to determine our progress. "Ain't much in it," I say. I feel Cirque's stare leave me, like it's a physical thing touching my cheeks. "We did more than you think. Another thumb of sun movement, and we should be nearly there," Cirque says. Another thumb of sun movement? Ugh, maybe I am a shanker. But that long might kill me. I think I make a face, because Cirque says, "Don't worry, we'll do it together. Let's rest for a while, and then we'll start again." Rest. I like the sound of that. There's nowhere to sit in the pit, unless you want to sit in a big old pile of blaze, so we climb back out, slipping and sliding on the slope. Once I almost fall, but Cirque grabs me by the arm and keeps me upright. My head's down when we near the top, and I hear a voice say, "Having fun yet, Scrawny?" I look up to see 3 younglings staring down at me. Hawks in the middle. Stopping, I let Cirque pull up alongside me. Caught by surprise, I'm tongue-tied, unable to find the right words to send these blaze eaters packing. Cirque, on the other hand, always seems ready for anything. "Get the scorch out of here, Hawk. We're working." Shoveling blaze, and from the looks of it, doing a pretty poor job of it. One of his mates, a guy they call Drag, coughs out a laugh. "Like you'd know anything about it," Cirque says, taking a step forward. "You're right, I didn't know a searing thing about blaze, other than it comes out from between my cheeks about a day after I eat a load of tug meat. And then you get to shovel it," he laughs. "But the only thing I don't understand is why you're here, Cirque. Wasn't the punishment for Scrawny?" There's a gleam in Hawk's eye that makes me shiver, despite the oppressive mid-afternoon heat. "I don't abandon my friend," Cirque says calmly, although I see his fingers curl into fists. "And don't call her that. Another step forward, just one away from the lip." Hawk's friends take a step back, but Hawk doesn't move. But that's what she is, right? I mean, look at her. She's skinny, not an ounce of muscle on her. Watch it, Cirque's voice is a growl. She's got legs that are wobblier than a newborn tug's. Shut it. And her chest is flatter than the Cody Plains. Cirque moves so fast I almost slip again just watching him. I don't even see the step or two he takes before he's on top of Hawk, pounding away with both fists. Hawk's doing his best to block the blows, but he's making a strange, high-pitched noise that tells me plenty of Cirque's punches are getting through. Drag and the other guy, Looper, seem so stunned at first that they just stand there, but then they finally get their act together and jump on Cirque, each grabbing one of his arms from behind, pulling him away from Hawk. Cirque struggles, but they've got him so tight he can't get his arms free. I'm frozen as if the coldness of ice country has suddenly descended from the mountains, gluing my feet to the sludge beneath me. Hawk stands up. They're going to hurt him. Hawk steps forward, wipes a string of blood from his nose, his mouth all screwed up. All 'cause of me. The first punch is below the belt and Cirque groans, doubles over, unable to protect himself. I have to do something. My feet finally move, come unstuck, as if someone else is controlling them. I'm not scrawny anymore, not a runt, not weak, not any of the other names I've been called my entire life. I'm Sienna the Brave, and Cirque is my friend, and he needs me. Hawk sees me coming and moves to cut me off, but he's too slow. My muscles ache from the shoveling, but I block it out, block everything out, except for getting to the guys holding Cirque's arms. If I can just unloose one of them, I trip. Maybe on the lip of the blaze pit, or maybe on a random rock I don't notice, maybe on my own 2 feet for all I know. It certainly wouldn't be the first time. But regardless, I start tumbling head first, out of control, my arms and legs flailing and flopping like an injured bird as I try to regain my balance. I don't. I crash into the back of Looper, who feels more like a boulder than a youngling boy, my nose crunching off his iron-like elbow, which fires backwards, knocking me off my feet. I'm in a pile in the dust, covered in blaze and dirt and a bit of warm blood that trickles from my nose and onto my lips and from the scrape that I feel on my knee. Stupid runt, Hawk says, looming over me, his shadow providing a much-needed reprieve from the relentless sun. You two ain't even worth the blaze you've been shoveling. He kicks me once in the stomach and I groan, clutching my ribs, which feel like they've cracked in half. With my cheek against the dust, I see Cirque struggling against the boys, bucking and twisting, but they're strong too, and they have the advantage in numbers and energy. Hawk laughs and saunters back over to Cirque. Don't worry, I won't hurt your girlfriend anymore. She practically knocked herself out anyway. Violence spreads across his face and he slams his fist into Cirque's stomach twice, and then, winding up, whips a wild haymaker that glances off Cirque's jaw with a vicious thud. Drag and Looper throw him to the ground where he slumps, unmoving. All I can think is, my fault. That's the end of chapter 2. So this is the start of a very, very long adventure of Cirque, and you know, this. I think the reason that Fire Country has caught the attention of some people, particularly some librarians and some teachers, is that her story is one of an underdog fighting against those who seem to have the advantage over her. But as you'll find out through the course of the story, that just because she's skinny and scrawny and seems to be weaker than her adversaries, that maybe that's not exactly the case, and maybe she just has a bit of growing in to do. And I mean, honestly, that's a message that I think we have to send to our teenagers, is that being different and not being perfect is fine, and that's the way we're meant to be, and that's all about learning and growing over the course of our lives. And teenage years are very important to build up teenagers' sense of themselves and their self-confidence, self-esteem. So I really think you'll enjoy seeing Sienna grow as a character and eventually blossom as a character through the course of Fire Country in particular, and over the course of the series as a whole. But sorry, I'm losing my voice here. But thank you very much for listening to the excerpt of Fire Country, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the story. And finally, one from The Earth Dwellers, which is the 7th and final book that combines the Country Saga and the Dweller Saga together. So I hope you come back for those. And thanks again for tuning in. And thanks, Jenny, for having me on again. Everyone, take care. Bye.
Busted.